Now, up for grabs this afternoon, I have got a brilliant prize. We are talking about parenting right now, and this is a competition for the kids because every day this week we're offering you the chance to spend some time with loved ones this Ramadan, courtesy of Ripe Market. So this can be around food. Yesterday it was a paddle court rental, and today it's access for one child to go to Infinite Camps. It's their spring camp at Ripe Market Academy Park in March, worth a whopping 1,500 dirhams. So we're talking themed weeks, loads of sporting activities, games and arts and crafts and music and sensory play and more. So if you want to win that, just tell me, what are your kids into right now? What's their favourite hobby or activity? What are they loving? Randolph saying painting and making scrapbooks. Valentina, I need to know because you're saying your kids are into crochet. Mine are desperate to learn. I've tried to do a YouTube tutorial with them. It did not end well. So if you've got any recommendations, let me know. If Randy's saying arts and crafts and, as we're going to be talking about it after 2, loads of Lego. What are your kids enjoying right now? There's no right, there's no wrong, but please include that and the word camp plus your name, please. 4001 is the SMS, and I'll put you in the draw to win the Infinite Camp Spring Camp with Ripe worth 1,500 dirhams. I was going to say parenthood can be overwhelming. Parenthood is overwhelming, and many dads in particular feel the pressure to cope quietly. Dom Watts is a holistic coach, a former teacher, crucially a dad of 2 himself, who focuses on conscious living and parenting. His book is The Diary of a Mindful Dad, Uncensored, and sharing his own journey into fatherhood. And we've been exploring about being present, being emotionally aware can really transform family life, relationships, and how men handle stress. Now, Dom, many dads, and we've talked about this in terms of finances a lot recently, and rightfully so, many fathers do feel this pressure to be the provider, the fixer, the calm in the storm all at once. In your experience and with men that you've worked with, what impact do you think that has on mental well-being?
Yes, like you said, the word is overwhelming, carrying a huge amount, and if we're not bringing awareness to our emotions on a moment-to-moment basis, it's so much harder to deal with. And if we don't have people that we can speak to about it, whether that's your spouse, your friends, anybody, it's so much harder because even just another perspective, that someone doesn't even have to say something really interesting or insightful, but just having another perspective is so powerful. So my wife is an amazing sounding board for me, and I'm able to talk about the way that I feel, and she always helps, even without really saying that much sometimes, you know. So it's really important to share. Everyone's talking about this these days. It's really important for men to share. I think men are understanding that that's important now more than they ever have before, and that's great. So. And yeah, that would be my number one thing. You know? We
talk a lot about emotional labour, and that conversation often comes back to women, this idea of the emotional labour that women carry. And I think that does do a lot of a disservice to the emotional labour that men carry. I think, to echo your point, so much of it is about communication, because I'm sure there are so many men listening today who are feeling the pressure but don't feel like they can talk about it. They don't want to moan or seem grateful or add to their wife's plate, or maybe there aren't friends that they feel like they can be openly emotionally vulnerable with. To my mind, it's just about mutual appreciation. It's not about going, I did this, I did that, I did that, I did that. Did you know I did that? You didn't even notice that I did that. And then, you know, they're the person going, well, I did that and you didn't recognise that. But I'm sure there are 50 things that my husband did, you know, in the last week that I probably had no idea about, and vice versa. And unless you do kind of communicate, then you don't have that mutual appreciation. You don't have that gratitude for what you're carrying together as a team, if that makes sense. Yeah. We've had so many messages for you, Dom. We're going to try and get through as many as we can. More of a comment than the question first, though. Julie saying, I love the therapeutic paper by Dr. Donald Winnicott. It was titled The Good Enough Mother. Obviously, we can change this now, rightly, to the good enough parent. But sometimes we need to stop striving for perfection and realise that good enough for our children truly is good enough, and therefore we're modelling them for the future. Quite right, too. Absolutely. Interesting message here from Anonymous saying, hi guys, interesting topic. I catch myself reacting exactly like my own dad did, angry, impatient. How do you break those patterns when they feel automatic in the moment? My wife says I have a scary tone sometimes with the kids, which I actually don't hear at all. but wanted to make sure I'm addressing it.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm really, really glad somebody asked that. This covers so many of the things that I've already tried to speak about, but also probably the most important element of the work that I do with people one-to-one, which is showing that there's a totally different way of relating to your emotions, your subconscious, your patterns, which is, it's really quite kind of unpopular because we've grown up in a society where we're all about doing, we're all about controlling, right? We can use the mind to build spaceships that can send us to the moon, right? Which means the mind can do anything, but actually it really, really can't. And this is not something that can be addressed using the faculty of the mind. You can't think your way out of deep-seated, deep-rooted patterns. And so there's a key word in that sentence, which is break. Break patterns. That's aggressive, right? Aggression to yourself on the inside doesn't work. It creates more conflict, but these are the only ways we've learned to do things. So I'm suggesting something different, which comes from mindfulness. It comes from meditation. It's another reason why meditation is so powerful. It's not about making you have a peaceful time for 10 minutes. It's about how it impacts the way you perceive your own thoughts and your own emotions. So what happens is you notice that if you can observe your patterns and feel them in the moment, that is a healing action. You don't actually need to change them. You don't need to act on them. You need to surrender and look at them and feel them and just sit in it. And if you sit in it like that with full awareness, I promise you something different happens. The energy transforms and you're not trying to transform it. And that's the key. It actually transforms. It's self-compassion, like you said earlier.
But because what I think about then is I kind of had this imaginary scenario in my head of this listener who we don't know, of catching themselves responding in a way and then pausing and going, I shouldn't be doing it, that's wrong. And then putting on almost like a fake voice of going, Daddy didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
which is not actually long-term going to change anything in either person or indeed that relationship. But as you say, by that noticing, then it becomes more of a gradual. And what I really don't like this is this kind of self-flagellation as well of like, I'm wrong. I genuinely believe this. We always do our best in any given situation with the information, the energy that we have. And this listener saying, I don't want to do what my dad did, but that's what was modeled to you. That it does take a lot of, okay, how do I want things to be different?
Yeah, exactly. And I really empathize with this. I've been going through a lot of seeing this in myself as well. Very, similar kind of thing. And it's the desire for it to be different is actually wasting our energy in a way. Yes, we need to have, in a sense, an ideal, right? Like this is how we want to be in theory, but giving energy to that isn't real takes our energy away from what's actually real. And if you can bring all of your energy to what is real, something changes,
I think, and again, this is having spoken to a number of dads, I think with the amount of stress on a lot of people's shoulders right now, you mentioned before about socks. Your kids are 4 and 2, getting the socks on. This idea of having an outburst or coming home and things being untidy or a child not doing what you ask them to do straight away. When you haven't got control in other areas of your life, your boss is giving you a hard time, that bill's coming in, your phone doesn't stop. And then it feels like, okay, here's a situation where I can assert myself and I want the power and I want the control and you are going to do what I tell you to do. And unfortunately, it can really damage that relationship. What breaks my heart, Dom, to be completely honest, is that the people that will take the time to come to see you and work on themselves and even to read the book are probably the ones that are already doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think, if anyone's listening to this and there are, people in your lives that, you feel like would really benefit from, listen, it's a half-hour chat. It's not going to change your life, but, it's a reflection and it's a being, self-compassion. I wanted to ask you one quick question, which is a big one, but it's from a listener who says that he only sees his dad his kids every other weekend. Feels like he could cram all the parenting in. Saying he needs to cram in the fun, the life lessons, the relaxation into those days. Any advice on building a strong connection when time is limited? He's got 2 boys who are 13 and 9.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's so common. You know, one of the things that has upset me the most since becoming a parent is the lack of time I have with them because of living within society. You know, they're with other people from 8 till 6 every day, and it's so challenging. And obviously this is even more challenging. It's only on the weekend. I would say to look at what's becoming a problem would help. So the idea that it needs to be perfect, the idea that you need to have a really neat and tidy day where you can fit all those things in is completely natural. You know, all of our minds are saying that to us, that that's what we need to do. And it's just being able to laugh at ourselves a bit, you know, and that brings a relaxation. And really, if you could only choose one thing that you really wanted to do that day, let's say, right? Imagine, you know, I often use this example. Imagine you're literally on your last month of your life, you know. How would you really want to live? What you want more than anything would be connection, right? More than the life lessons, more than
the theme park tickets.
Yeah, or for me, playing sport with them, you know,
Yeah.
I really want them to learn a sport. But like, why? You know, actually really think about that. It doesn't matter that much. And then what I really want is just being with them. And
That's all they want to.
exactly. And the thing is that being with them, like we've said, is not always pleasant because there's going to be the negative side of the coin. There's going to be the mucky stuff that comes up in the day. And I've found it really helpful just to literally remember that, you know, before these times, almost like, oh yeah, this is not going to be a perfect day. And it just makes it easier.
And that's same with holidays, same with weekends. It's
Yeah.
never going to be perfect, but there's magic moments. And to come back to Julie's point,
Yeah.
this idea of good enough and self-compassion.
Exactly.
Dom, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat properly with you. Thank you so much for your time today. I've had lots of people sending me the word dad. If you want to do that to 4001, I will send you details of his book, Diary of a Mindful Dad, Uncensored.
Dubai Eye 103.8's Weather Check.
Sponsored by Air Arabia.